All right.
Yes.
Okay.
Excellent.
Go ahead, Rakai.
Well, good evening, everyone. My name is Rakai Binns, Assistant Vice President, Investment Advisor, Broker, Trader here with Butterfield Asset Management. Certainly a pleasure to be here with you all this evening. And I understand we want to find some funds for college. Such an exciting time. So, we always end up asking ourselves the major question is, how are we going to pay for it? With that being said, there is some good news. The good news is, we don't have to look for these funds all at once. We can certainly break it up into bite-sized pieces, and we're going to talk a little bit more about that as well as some other strategies this evening. Without further ado, I have Mr. Andrew Masters here, who is our VP of Marketing, to present for us our slide presentation this evening.
Thank you, Rakai. Yes. So, we at Butterfield this year are really committed to financial literacy, financial well-being, trying to provide more tools for the community that they may not have access to currently. So, this presentation is a little bit tailored towards that kind of idea of, establishing good habits, how to save, how to manage debt, making sure that we're, asking the right questions and we're comfortable talking about money and creating a safe space to have these conversations. So, being here is a great first step, as Rakai said, and I'm going to just kind of dive right in. I wasn't sure sort of the ages of people's kids that were going to be here. So, if some of this feels, a little basic to you at first, I apologize, but I think it's so important. Let's see. Sorry. There we go. So yeah, saving is really a skill, right? Managing our finances is something that's not really taught correctly in the education curriculum, and that's not just a Bermuda thing, that's around the world. We don't have great statistics for financial literacy in Bermuda, but in the UK, the US, the places that we are the closest to economically, they're not great. So I imagine Bermuda is pretty similar. So, introducing the idea of money management to your children as young as possible. If you haven't done it and they're a bit older, it's not too late now. Just start thinking about how you can help them develop a good relationship with money and make smart choices, because smart choices can lead to an exciting future of possibilities. And it's all about, building confidence and building healthy habits and making those first steps. Why are good money habits important? You're more likely to have a good quality of life, less likely to rely on other people, less likely to end up in debt, more likely to make good financial decisions, less likely to worry. Early saving habits, getting into the habit of putting a little money aside, is going to enable you to achieve whatever your long-term goals may be, whether that's pursuing higher education, purchasing a home, starting a family, buying a car. All those things start with establishing good habits and establishing them early. So, what are just a few examples of good habits? Budgeting regularly, saving automatically, when you get some money, putting a little bit away, tracking your spending, living below your means so that you can save, and setting goals. Some bad habits are impulse buying. It's okay to do sometimes, because we have to reward ourselves for having good financial habits, but you don't want to make a big thing of doing it all the time. And borrowing money for non-essentials, not saving for emergencies, and really spending without having any goals, just sort of spending without thinking. So just some sort of basic budgeting things. We mentioned budgeting there. One of the best ways to achieve financial wellness is to develop a budget that works for you. When you have a budget, you'll be able to see exactly where your money is going and adjust accordingly. This will help you curb your spending, save more money, and reach your financial goals. In this case, pursuing higher education. And it's important to remember there's not a one size fits all approach to budgeting. What works for someone else might not work for you. So the key is to find a system that works for you and your situation and your personality, and not get frustrated if it takes time to figure out. So to get started, grab as much info as you can. Right? Look through your bank statements, see what's coming in, see what's going out. Total your expenses from the previous year. Right now is a great time to do that because the year just ended. This idea of the 50-30-20 rule, 50% for needs, 30% for wants, and 20% put away for saving. And then these last two are just some other methods that might work for you. The envelope method of putting certain pots aside for different things that you want to do. Like, so you very specifically know what money you have for food, or what money you have for gas, what money you have for travel. And then, always having some sort of emergency fund, because you never know what life will throw at you. So yeah, just monitoring and managing your income, your money coming in, and your expenditure, your money going out, is a really good, healthy habit to establish early and to talk to your kids about. So Rakai's going to jump back in a little bit here and talk about some of these bite-sized pieces, but you have to think about your short-term goals and your long-term goals. Your long-term goal here being higher education, going to college. Maybe it's shorter-term goal for some of you, but you have to set goals. You really do, because it keeps you in control, and it makes sure that you have something that you're working towards. And the earlier you can start, the more interest you're going to earn. So, getting more money in earlier helps that money grow and grow and grow and grow. Go ahead. Yeah.
If I can jump in there, what I'd like you to focus on is assessing your net need for college. So what do I mean by your net need? Oftentimes we have some money stashed away, or we have some pieces covered for our college expenses already. So the first thing I want you to do is assess your net need. And that's essentially that gap that you're looking to fill. Your college funding is going to come from three primary sources, or it's going to be broken up into three separate groups. Number one, your college will be funded from your past dollars, right? So those are going to be any savings or any monies that you've earmarked to go towards your young person's college education. The second bucket, the way I look at it, is your present dollars, right? And those are the current savings, any investments that you currently have that are accruing any interest, or monies that may need to be earmarked or set aside for college or education. And then you have your future assets, or your future dollars. And these are going to be funds that are future windfalls, if you will, future earnings, or any investment returns that perhaps haven't been had yet. You can utilize all of those different things towards paying for your college. So you don't necessarily need to have 4 years worth of expenses in a bucket somewhere for that young person. And if you have more than one young person, then of course, it's very, very easy to be overwhelmed, because you're thinking big picture, I need to save 400,000 or 300,000 for college. So I would really encourage you to just break it up. Look at what you already have, look at maybe things that are coming in currently, and then separate any of your future needs. Maybe your 3 and 4 expenses of college perhaps don't need to be addressed just yet, and it can give you a bit of breathing space, for when you do get to that juncture. And the reality is, ladies and gentlemen, the truth is some of us have it and some of us just don't. So, I'm always concerned with, how do we fill that gap? Number one, I look for anything that's free, right? Anything that's free. So any scholarships, bursaries, grants, financial aid for those that are eligible. Oftentimes we have folks who might be eligible for financial aid within their respective institutions. So that's anything free is very, very helpful. Beyond that, ladies and gentlemen, if you have a pen handy, I'm going to float some website addresses to you that might assist you in your search for scholarships, grants, etc. With that being said, we're looking at bermudascholarships.com, bermudascholarships.com, gov.bm, gov.bm, moed.bm, moed.bm, college.bm, that's college, college.bm, centennial.bm, culture.bm, Green Family Scholarship.bm, Butterfieldgroup.com, and bm.usconsulate.gov, bm.usconsulate.gov. So I believe at the base level, if you're looking for those scholarships, bursaries, grants, that would be a nice area to start looking. Secondly, we have friends and family. Gifts. Birthday is coming up. Valentine's is coming up. You know, let's encourage our loved ones to provide us some monies for further education. Every bit counts, and you know it does accumulate a bit faster than we expect. Students, if there are any students who may be listening at the moment, I would really, really encourage you guys to work alongside your parents because they are working very, very hard to further your education or to provide assistance for your further education. Things like getting a side job, having a little hustle, packing groceries, mowing lawns, washing cars, you know, save wherever you can because it will come in handy and it will be beneficial. If you're already at school or you've been successful in being accepted to a university or a college, I would encourage you to find an on-campus job to help offset some of those costs. Look for cheap textbooks. That can be a major, major savings for you. Get a roommate. Room and board can be quite expensive. And of course, be frugal. You know, we're not looking to fly back to Bermuda every vacation unless you have a job lined up. Or we're not looking to buy rental cars or rent rental cars and travel around the US or Europe unless necessary. And lastly, I would say perhaps even explore community colleges, right? There's nothing that says that we have to automatically go directly into a university. Myself, I actually got my finance degree at St. John's University, but not before completing Erie Community College in Buffalo, New York. So for me, that community college was a necessary and valuable first step, which definitely prepared me for further education at St. John's University. And I'll close with this. Parents, for those of you on the line here, there are a few sources that you might be able to tap into, perhaps you haven't thought about just yet. Number one is your pensions. Each of your pensions have a hardship withdrawal facility that allows you to perhaps access money for overseas education. Through your pensions also, you have the ability to tap into any additional voluntary contributions, which would be unlocked and able to be used as sort of a supplemental savings vehicle for yourself. Some folks might have life insurance policies with the cash value. Oftentimes, you're able to tap into that cash value and utilize some of those funds for your further education. And lastly, those who might be eligible for these things, we do have some corporates who have employer-sponsored education programs. So if you may be at one of those employers, I know not everyone does offer them, but sometimes we do have those employer-sponsored education programs. I would really, really encourage you to tap into all of your resources and exhaust your options because it is a worthwhile pursuit.
Thanks, Rukai. So yeah, I mean, I think, you know, that was a lot of really great ideas of kind of how you can fund it. So we've talked about goals and sources of funding. You know, when you're thinking about planning ahead for these colleges too, I think, you know, don't think about it as something so general. Try to be a bit more specific with your goal. Where do you want to go to college? Do you want to go to Canada, the UK, the US? Is it going to be private, public? You know, what's the price range? How much does it cost? Don't forget to think about, additional costs such as housing, transportation, school supplies. This total amount should be what your goal saving plan is. So, for example, if your child is 10 years old and you need $100,000, you'll need to set aside $1,000 a month. So, if that's too much for you, then you need to, think about where you can source some other funding from. But at least you have a number, that you're working towards, and that'll help you when you're also trying to cut unnecessary expenses. If you can, I just have a quick slide after this to talk about that a bit more. But this is really about just sitting down and making a plan of where you want to go and how you're going to get there. And this is just.
Can I jump in here a minute?
Yeah.
We have some questions in the chat. I don't think everyone got that list. And
All right.
asking if you could say the list of the different places, and Alicia will type it into the chat as you say that list, because you said a few ones that I'm not familiar with. And then someone is specifically also asking for the Greens email address, please. But I'm just going to ask you repeat the list.
Sure, no problem. So starting from the top, we have bermudascholarships.com, bermudascholarships.com, gov.bm, moed, moed.bm, college.bm, that's Bermuda College. Centennial Foundation, which is centennial.bm, CENTENNIAL, I believe, spell check that, centennial.bm, culture.bm, Green Family Scholarship.bm, Green Family Scholarship.bm, Butterfieldgroup.com, Butterfieldgroup.com. And lastly, I have the US Consulate website, which is bm.usconsulate, consulate.gov, bm.usconsulate.gov.
Thank you.
Okay, I know we're running a bit over our time, so I'll be quick here to close us out. But just the whole purpose of this is really to say, no matter who you are, your world and your relationships involve money in some way, right? And we need to all be a bit more comfortable talking about it. It's a difficult thing to do, especially when you might be embarrassed, or you might not want to ask for help, or whatever it is. You really a lot of people, just like financial literacy, are scared about talking about money.
That's right.
It's related. So, but when we talk about money, we make better decisions, and we have stronger personal relationships. As I mentioned from the top, when you're talking to your children about money, you're helping them have a better relationship with money and have a better future. And overall, it just helps you feel less stressed and more in control when you have a plan, when you set goals. So, try to understand what's going on, and make sure that you're, not afraid to ask questions right now or in general. So yeah, we will just finish with the Butterfield stuff. Rakai already talked about this, but we did officially actually open this up today, which is why I will say applications are now open for our scholarship. We give away one $30,000 annual scholarship for up to 4 years. It also new this year includes an opportunity to work at Butterfield, when you're back and after graduation, if a suitable role exists and you're interested. So, that's a great one if your kid is the right age to be applying to scholarships to look into right now. And then, we do have education loans. I'm not a loan officer, so I'm not going to sit here and tell you the ins and outs of it. I would say, we are always happy to have a conversation, though, and that can cover tuition, but it can also cover smaller things like the expenses like traveling to school and from school, housing, supplies, et cetera. It doesn't have to be like a massive loan where you're kind of afraid of how you might be able to repay it. So I think, just explore all of your options, have a plan, and I'll let Rakai close this out here. I don't know if you,
Sure.
yeah.
No, thank you so much. If you'd like to have a further conversation, feel free to give us a call. You can reach me directly at 299-3817. My email is rikai.bins. That's RICKAI .bins, BINNS at butterfieldgroup.com, butterfieldgroup.com. And lastly, guys, I do want you to just continue to be encouraged. It's an exciting journey that you're embarking on. Be bold in the pursuit, of course. Be grateful for the opportunities like this that are afforded to us. And of course, be determined to be better, do better. And like they say at Southampton Glebe, where I was once educated, continue to strive, grow, and succeed. So thank you, guys. Look forward to connecting in due course with each and every one of you.
Thank you.
Thank you for that, Andrew and Rikai. That was very informative. We did have a question about the loans, and you briefly touched on that. So they just wanted to know, as a financial institution, what are some of the loan options for those who might not apply for scholarships? Would you say that the best thing would be to sit with a loan officer to go over what that process looks like?
Absolutely,
Yes,
absolutely.
yes.
And if need be, send me an email. I'm happy to make a connection or referral so that we can plug you in as expediently as possible and make sure that you're connected to the right person. We want to make sure that the journey is as comfortable as possible for you. It can be a stressful time. So
Yeah, and if you go to the personal lending section of our website, butterfieldgroup.com, you will find all the information that was on that slide, as well as an email of how to reach out to the lending team and start a conversation. And I believe also like what you would need for the application, which I didn't put on that slide. So that would be, I would say, the best first step, aside from reaching out to Sure. Would be to just visit our website, the personal lending section, and look for education loans.
Can you share, send us your slides so that we can share them with participants?
I can do that. Yeah, sure.
Okay. So thank you very much. And I just want to say, give you parents a little tidbits in between our next presenter. The world is changing, and we work with a Pair Forward program where, they've indicated through their research, 65% of all jobs require higher education. And experts predict an 11 million shortage of college-educated workers over the next decade. So we really need to be looking at, continuously pushing post-secondary education for our students. And on the average, bachelor's degree graduates earn 1 million more over their lifetime than those with only a high school diploma, associate degrees, or earnings make $500,000 more. The research also indicates that the reason that students drop out is not academically and emotionally ready, but the number one thing is that they don't have enough money. So that's one of the biggest reasons we are promoting this Finding Funds for College. And I like what you said about financial literacy early, which is why we really want to take this roadshow at the primary school level. So we could be building financial literacy so that when we get to S4, we have all the resources necessary. Those extra little things, a plane ticket, washing your laundry, all of those things are going to be important for going to college. So thanks a lot. I'll turn it back over to Alicia.
Thank you to Butterfield, and thank you, Kim, for those statistics. We are going to move on to Ryan Robertson, Parent Chief of the Bermuda Credit Union. So I'll turn it over to Ryan.
Okay, good evening, everyone. It's a pleasure to be presenting to you tonight. Can everybody see my screen?
Yes.
Are you seeing the presentation, the cover? Sorry, I can't see it.
We can see the presentation, but you're just a bit low, Ryan.
Okay. All right, how's this? Can you all hear me fine?
Fine for me. Is everyone else that's on the meeting
Okay.
able to hear?
Yes. I
Yeah.
can hear.
All right, thank you. All right, good evening, everyone, and thank you for the opportunity to present on behalf of the Bermuda Credit Union. So my name is Ryan Robinson, Parent Chief. I'm the CEO and General Manager, and this is my second time doing this presentation with the MIRRORS program, so thank you for inviting me back. Thanks also to Butterfield, because I think they've set a good foundation in terms of some good savings tips. So in this presentation, I'm going to talk a little bit more about the Bermuda Credit Union specifically. I know that some people may not be familiar with the Bermuda Credit Union as a financial institution. So I will talk a little bit about what we are and what we do, and then we'll go into some of our different products and services, which may be relevant for both parents and for students as they're getting ready for school. So just to go into a little bit about who we are. So some of you may not have heard of the Bermuda Credit Union before, but for parents, you may know it as the BIU Members Credit Union. A credit union is not a bank. It's similar to a bank, but the difference is that it is owned by the people that use it. So when you go to a bank, you're a customer of the bank, right? And the bank is owned by a separate group of people. A credit union is a cooperative institution. So the type of business that it is one where the people that are the customers or the users of this financial institution also own it. We're also all members, and we have equal shares in the ownership of this financial institution.
Hey,
So it's like a
Ryan.
bank.
So someone commented that they can just about hear you. I don't know if you're able to increase the volume again or come closer to your mic.
Okay. Let's see what we can do. Is this any better?
Yes, that sounds louder to me. If anyone listening can hear, can you drop a 1 in the chat, please?
Okay, great. Thank you. Sorry about that, everyone. So what I was saying was essentially that the credit union is like a bank, but it's not a bank. The difference is that it's owned by the people that use it. So we're a member-owned, not-for-profit, cooperative financial institution. So we offer similar services to that of a bank, savings, loans, as well as insurance. But the difference is that everybody that's a customer of the credit union, everybody that has an account with us, is also a part owner. It's an institution and a type of bank that we all own as a community together. And so because we're not focused on primarily making a profit, we're able to offer better access to loans and as well as higher interest on savings. So we're not for profit, not for charity, but for service. And our main focus is on the benefit of the community. Just to give a little bit of background, it was founded in 1972, just over 50 years ago, by the founders of the Bermuda Industrial Union. And it was initially set up just for persons who were related or members of a union, particularly the BIU. And then over time, it was opened up to other unions like teachers unions, the Bermuda Public Services Union, so government workers. And then most recently, it was expanded to be something that's open to all persons living and working in Bermuda. So we currently have around 6,000 members, and we manage assets of approximately $40 million. So just to talk a little bit more about what makes the credit union different from what you may know as a bank. So at the credit union, like I said, membership is ownership. So everybody who is a part of our institution is also a part owner. When you sign up and become a member and open an account at the credit union, you buy a share because you're a part owner of the company that we call the Bermuda Credit Union. As a result, we're focused a lot more on value and any profit that we make is turned right back into our organization and by extension, the wider community. Because we're a credit union, we also have certain principles we abide by. Those include voluntary and open membership, democratic member control, so we all make decisions together in how we operate this credit union or community bank. Autonomy and independence, so we make decisions for ourselves. There's a big focus on education and training and information. We cooperate with other cooperatives and community organizations, and we're concerned about the community, and we take an interest in making sure it's a better place for all of us. For those of you who are up to date on your African and your Western history, you may have heard of things like club hand or susu. All that to say, the credit union really stems from a long-standing historical tradition of basically communities pooling their funds together and saving together and growing together. So if you go back to olden Europe times, or even in Western Africa, some of the challenges that everyday people might have had included getting access to funding from traditional banks. When you think about the times of the elite and the rich and the poor, a lot of people couldn't afford or couldn't have access to financial services the way that everybody does today. And as a result, communities started to come together to save and borrow from each other. And that's basically what a credit union is. It's different people, your neighbors, members of your community, who pool these funds and savings together, and we borrow and save with each other. So why choose the Bermuda Credit Union for your financing needs? I'm going to talk about two things today. One is called the 4-to-1 collateral ratio. And I'm also going to talk about some of our interest and savings plans. So some of the types of loans that we have include regular loans, share loans, which I'll get into. And we also offer loans protection. And I'm going to talk a little bit about a savings program we have called Golden Harvest. When it comes to a regular personal loan, this is a loan just like what was described by the previous presentation. So you're trying to get money that you don't have. When you qualify for a loan at Bermuda Credit Union, you get a lump sum of money up front and you pay it back over time, right? Pretty standard. The differences here are that at Bermuda Credit Union, the interest rate is fixed, which means that whatever you agree to repay over a set amount of period is not going to change. So as the economy changes, as interest rates globally change, inflation and things like that, the rate that you will pay at the Bermuda Credit Union stays the same over the duration of the loan. I'm now going to talk about what I mentioned, that 4-to-1 collateral ratio. What that basically means is the general rule here at the credit union is you can borrow up to 4 times whatever you have in your savings. So if you have $10,000 in your savings account, you can borrow up to $40,000. And that $10,000 will be held in your account here with us. It's still yours, but it'll be frozen until you repay back that $40,000 and of course your interest. So this is a way to sort of help predict how much you might need to save in order to get access to a loan. So we lend up to $100,000 with a 10-year repayment term. And we also offer free loan insurance up to $50,000. So what that means is, parents, if you take out a loan with the credit union, and something happens to you where you become disabled or you pass away and you're not able to pay it back, as long as you've been making your payments, we will cover the difference between what you owe. So what that means is when you pass away, your beneficiary doesn't have to worry about carrying that debt onward. It'll be cleared because it's automatically insured. And the other thing that's special about borrowing from Bermuda Credit Union is with every monthly repayment, there's a mandatory requirement that you have to contribute to your savings as well. So whatever your agreed monthly repayment rate is, we're also going to add a little bit more on top of that and put it right back into your savings. So if you use the example of the 4-to-1 ratio I just gave, if you needed $40,000, you would need $10,000 in your savings first. But as you repay that $40,000 loan, some of that payment's going to go on top of your $10,000, so that by the time you finish paying it back, you'll have more than that. Maybe you'll have $12,000 or $13,000. So by the time you finish repaying the loan, you're going to get some more back than what you started with. The second type of loan that we offer is called a share secured loan. At the credit union, your savings account where you use your everyday funds, we call that a share account because everybody has a share at the credit union. And essentially what a share loan allows you to do is borrow against what you have. So when you borrow with a regular loan, you're borrowing money that you don't have, right? You need $40,000, but you only have 10. With a share loan, you may already have that $40,000, but you don't want to spend it all at once. You don't want to see that balance go back down to zero in your account. So what some members like to do is borrow against what they have. So if you have a certain amount of funds, but you don't want to see that go down to zero, we will give you that amount and you'll take out a loan and then you'll pay yourself back. And because that's lower risk and it's already secured, you get a lower interest rate on that. And that's just for people who really want to maintain the balance that they have in their account without seeing it go down to zero, but still have to fund your everyday needs, whether that's schooling or a vehicle or bike or something like that. And so as a result, you can get access to your funds without touching your savings. I already mentioned loans protection insurance. So all of our loans have insurance up to $50,000. And as long as you keep up with those payments, if anything happens to you, that balance will be cleared and your beneficiary or whoever you set aside funds for when you pass away will be able to get whatever's in your account without having to repay this debt. So just to go through the process a bit, there are 4 steps to apply for a loan. First, you have to become a member because everybody at the credit union is a part owner and a member. And then you have to be saving for at least 6 months. And then you'll submit an application. You can get one online or you can meet with a loans officer. And you're going to need things like proof of why you're going to get the loan. So if you're going off to school, you're going to need some evidence of how much your tuition costs, for example. You're going to need to bring your ID. You'll analyze with the loans officer, what's your income, what's your expenses, can you afford to repay this? And we'll agree on what the length of the loan term will be and the amount. So what's your monthly repayment? How long is it going to take to pay back? How much are you going to pay in interest? After that, it'll be evaluated by our credit committee. So because we're a member-owned institution and everybody that works here, everybody that saves here is a part owner, we also have a group of volunteers called the credit committee who will meet and decide on loan applications. And those are members just like you and me. And once you get approved, if you get approved, the credit committee will make a decision and then the loans officer will contact you to arrange the final steps of the process. I'm just going to talk briefly now about another plan we have. If you're not interested in borrowing, but you want to save, we have a special program called a savings insurance plan. And what this means is you commit to saving a certain amount over a certain period of time, and you agree that every month you'll save, let's say, $100 or $200 until you reach this goal. If something happens to you where you become disabled or you pass away before you reach that goal, the difference between what you've saved up and what your goal is will be provided to you. So let's say you wanted to save $15,000 and you agreed to pay $200 to yourself to save up over the course of a few years. If something happens halfway through and you've only saved $6,000 or let's say you saved $10,000 just for simplicity's sake, but you wanted to save $15,000, you will get $5,000, the difference between what you had saved and what you were hoping to save. And so that's a plan that allows you to make sure that you meet your goal no matter what, as long as you keep up with your commitment. Another program we have is our CU Clubs, which is our Young Savers account. So for a credit union member, you need to be 18 to become a full member. But from the time of your birth up until 18, you can have a Young Savers account, which will get a higher interest rate than a normal savings account. So you can start with at least $5. And with a $5 amount, you can open a children's account and you'll get 0.75% interest per annum. And so that's a higher rate for young savers. And then when you go 18, you become a regular member of the credit union. For parents, one thing that might interest you is our payroll deduction service. And what that basically means is we have certain partners such as government and other large unions and affiliated organizations where you can get a certain amount of funds taken out of your paycheck and sent directly to your credit union account. So a lot of members like to use this to encourage themselves to save. You may have an account at HSBC or Butterfield that you use for your day-to-day expenses, but you want to stash some funds somewhere else on the side. A lot of members will set up payroll deductions with us so that before they get their paycheck, their payroll advisor or someone in the HR department will deduct a certain amount of funds and send it right to your credit union account here. And you can use that to pay off your loan, or you can just build savings so that When you're ready, you can come over to the credit union and you have an extra set of funds put aside for you. So just to go over some of the other products we have, I've covered the main ones that are relevant, but we also offer fixed term deposits where you can take a lump sum and put these funds aside for future use. So you might say, I have a couple $100 that I want to lock away for 5 years and not touch. You can do that and you'll get a higher interest rate so that at the end, you'll get those funds back with interest. We also offer some other insurance plans, such as a family indemnity plan, which is essentially an end-of-life benefit. And you can cover up to 6 persons in your immediate family on that plan with one premium. So you pay one set amount, and you can cover your children, your spouse, sometimes even your parents, so that if anything happens to any of them, there's a payout or a set of funds given to take care of any expenses. How do you become a member of the Bermuda Credit Union? If you're interested, with $57, you can become a member and open an account. And just to break down what that is, because we're all owners, we all have a share in the credit union of equity. $50 is what every member of the credit union has to have at all times in their account to purchase to become a member. So it's a $50 share that you purchase to become a member. It's a one-time thing, and it stays with us as long as you're a member. And then you need to keep $5 as a minimum savings, just to have some savings in your account. And then there's a $2 entrance fee. So with $57, you can open an account and become a member. So that's a little bit about what the credit union is, what makes it different. We offer savings, we offer loans, we offer insurance, but I also want to add another little savings tip. Not particularly a savings tip, but something that I really found handy when I was going off to school, just to add on to what Butterfield talked about. One tip for students, if you're listening, what I did right before I went off to school, every year, I made a budget. I would sit down and make a list of all my expenses, how much is school, how much is accommodation, but beyond that, how many trips do I want to take back and forth? What other things do I want to do in terms of entertainment, the gym? Make a list of all my expenses. And every year I go over and track and review them. So every month, every time I spent something significant, I go and look at it. And then before I go off to school, I'd have a meeting with my parents and sit down and say, Mom, Dad, this is how much I'm probably going to spend this year. This is how much I have. This is how much I need. And if there was a gap, that allowed me to have a better conversation to say, can you help me out here? If I had any extra, believe it or not, I actually would save up my funds, and every summer I come back and I come to the credit union and I sit with the CEO that was here before me, and I would say, what can I do with these funds? And every time I had a little extra, I come around and deposit it here, so that when I came back from school 7 years later, I came back with a little something set aside that I didn't have to worry about while I was gone. So that's just another little tip. If you're having trouble, or even if you have scholarships, make a little budget, try and track it. It might seem like it's boring or difficult to do, but you're going to be in school for some time, right? And when you finish, you're going to want to have a good foundation. So I can say, as somebody that just moved back home 2-3 years ago, that it was really handy to do that. And I'm happy that I did it, because it allowed me to kind of build some discipline and keep track of all my savings and my income and my expenses and what I needed to do going forward. And it helped make my school experience a lot easier by having that conversation early with my parents. So with that being said, I'm open to any questions, but I wish you all the best in your educational journeys, and feel free to reach out to me if you need any help, or if you have any questions along the way.
Thank you, Ryan. That was very informative. And we'll also be sharing the details that we can from these presentations through email, as well as I know the Bermuda Credit Union has a wonderfully revamped website with tons of information on there. So if it's anything that Ryan ran over today that you have any questions about, definitely go onto the website and have a look. We will open up at the end for questions, but at this time, I want to move on and allow our partners at HSBC to present. So I'm going to welcome Chantal and Lendia to share their screen and start their presentation.
Good evening, everyone. My apologies for that delay. My name is Lindy Bean, and I am currently employed at HSBC Bermuda as an assistant product manager. And I'm joined as well with my coworker.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Chantal Smith, and I am a Premier Officer.
Okay, so tonight we will cover what is an actual education loan, who and how you can apply, what are the requirements for an education loan, factors that would determine what makes you eligible, add-on products that can assist with your journey, and we'll follow that with a Q&A session. So in short, an education loan is basically a sum of money that is borrowed to finance your educational journey, whether that's you're doing boarding school, college, and such. But it doesn't just cover your tuition. It can actually cover your book supplies, living expenses, while you're in the process of pursuing your degree. The education loan is distinguished between unsecured and secured. Unsecured is typically up until 80,000, whereas secured exceeds that. Secured loan is typically protected by an asset. A lot of times you would use a house as security, cash, or another asset of value, in short. Who can apply and how? So first, a person would have to be 18 years and older. I want to cover a common misconception that we have with applicants. A lot of times we have the student actually apply. The only instance in which a student is actually eligible is if they are full-time employed and actually receive a salary. If you're a student and you're looking to apply, unfortunately, you wouldn't be eligible if you are not receiving a salary. So typically we see parents and or guardians applying. And to apply, you can either book an appointment in branch at 299-5959, or you can apply online. The incentive to apply online is that you can save up to $200 on banking fees. So I will let Chantal take over for the requirements and following on remainder of this presentation.
Good evening, everyone. So what are some of the requirements for an education loan? First and foremost, we do require the person that is applying to have an HSBC bank account with us. That's including the student as well, if they will be going on as a joint applicant. Typically, each loan differs according to person, but typically some of the main requirements for an education loan is receiving the acceptance letter from the school in which the person or student will be attending, tuition schedule, so that will be a school statement confirming the cost of the education for that term or year, valid identification, whether it be driver's license and or passport. And then for income verification, we can look through your HSBC account if you do get paid at HSBC. Alternatively, if you do not get paid at HSBC, we will be required to collect at least 3 months bank statements from the banking institute that your salary does get paid into. Whilst doing that as well, we do credit checks with other financial institutes, so like Butterfield and Clarion Bank, but that's also if it is applicable to you. Some other applicable items that may vary depending on the person that's applying will be home insurance and land tax. So if you do own a home, that is an additional document that we will require. But as mentioned, some of these documents may be required based on a case-by-case scenario. Factors that determine eligibility. So as previously mentioned, with the credit checks, we do check the other institutes. We also do check credit association as well, just to see how you've handled any existing credit facilities with those institutes. And then we also conduct credit checks based off of the credit facilities that you may have with us here at HSBC. With another eligibility, we do have a debt service ratio percentage that we do qualify a customer based off of. This debt service ratio is dependent on a customer's income and expenses. HSBC has a threshold percentage of 55%. So anything below 55% is eligible for review. Anything over 55% is an automatic decline. So this is information that we will go over with you during the meeting to determine your debt service ratio percentage, and then we'll be able to determine how we will proceed going forward. We do also offer some other products that can assist with your education journey. So HSBC currently has a savings account called Quarterly Bonus. This is a account that HSBC designed to allow a customer to save their funds by earning interest, as well as giving you an incentive interest, which is why we call it quarterly. The incentive interest is earned on a quarterly basis. So how it pretty much works is you would deposit funds into the account. Every 3 months, if you haven't made any withdrawals from the account, the bank will pay an additional bonus interest. So you will receive the regular monthly interest and then bonus interest if you don't make any withdrawal. There is no penalty or fee if you did make a withdrawal for the account. However, you would opt out of receiving that bonus interest that the bank would have given to you. This account functions just like a normal savings account does, so it does only require $100 to open.
Just don't touch it.
Some
The
other products that
microphone's
can
on.
assist as well with your, I'm sorry, it doesn't plug. Have a question? We'll wait to the end.
Yeah, that's fine. I think
Yeah.
they accidentally unmuted, so I just muted their
Okay.
mic for them.
That's fine, thank you. All right, so here are also some other products that can assist with an education journey as well. HSBC does have different types of credit cards. So depending on your banking proposition, whether you're a premier customer or regular personal banking customer, we can go over the benefits that come along with these options. So we will determine based off of your information which card will best be beneficial for you. Each card has different benefits, so that is something that we will go over with you. A lot of parents tend to have credit cards already and then just add their children as secondary so they have access to the credit card while being overseas. If the parent doesn't have a credit card, this is something that they can apply for at the same time as the education loan with adding the child as a secondary to the card. So that is the end of our presentation. So we will go ahead and open the floor for anyone that may have any questions.
So I do see a question in the chat that is asking, how does this differ from the average loan?
Yes, so education loans do receive a lower interest rate than a regular personal loan does. So the current interest rate for a personal loan is 8.25%. Education loans are between 6 and 7%, depending on if it's secured or unsecured. So because we offer a lower interest rate for education loans, that's why they're separated from the personal loan, because they have that lower interest rate. Any other questions?
The payback. Payback? Yes. Is it interest free? I'm sorry.
Yeah, so there are two types of education loans. So I know years ago, banks used to offer deferred payments until the child comes back from school. Unfortunately, we don't offer that no longer. So there's two types of education methods you can set up. So the first one would be the regular way by doing a 5-year term loan, which consists of principal and interest payments. And then we also have a 7-year loan. So that will be 2 years of interest only, and then 5 years of principal and interest. So you will be paying on the loan. It won't be no deferred payments until the student comes back. But those are the two methods of education loans that we offer.
Anything else? I can't see the chat there.
So there was a message in the chat, so I'm just gonna post this to Ms. Jackson to see if you're able to speak on it. But it says, general observation, the gap in Bermuda is the lack of student loans that previously existed through Bermuda government. Those loans were payable upon return as an option and had extremely low interest or no interest. That loss created a major gap in educating those that have few options, and these are outside of the limited grants, etc.
I can't speak fully on that, but I do know that the Bermuda government has raised their annual giving to over $2 million a year. And they have spread it into various ways of giving along with workforce development. So because they may not do that any longer, they're still given in other ways. It all depends on what the individual is going into, because a lot of workforce development is based on the industry needs. But there are bursaries also that they are offering is similar to what they used to offer, because you have to come back and provide that value, that number of service back on the island. So although it's not specifically how they used to do it before, there are some similarities in a portion of their giving. But I can't say, I don't want to speak for them. They will be on. Which date, Alicia? Because the Ministry of Education will specifically be on to talk about that, and that's a question that we will present to them before they come on so that they can answer it fully. Workforce Development will also be on to speak about their giving.
So that session is going to be on March 4th. So it'll be the Bermuda College, the Bermuda Government, Ministry of Education,